Welcome to Leveling Up Your Co-Teaching using Google Classroom, presented by the Technology Training Team, also known as T3. This session is plugged in and powered up. For those who are plugging in, our goal is for you to learn how to access and use PGCPS digital tools and content. Plugged in participants fall under replacement on the pick-rack scale. So when you ask yourself, how is my use of technology influencing traditional practice? When replacing, technology simply trades traditional practices and does not fundamentally change the nature of the lesson. What students do with technology, they could also do the same activity in a textbook or on a hard copy worksheet, hence the word replacing. Replacing is not bad. It is the start of intentionally integrating technology into your lessons. For those powering up, our goal is to help you explore essentials for lesson design, creation, and delivery. Powered up falls under amplifying on the pick-rack scale. So when you ask yourself, how is my use of technology influencing traditional practice? When amplifying, technology adds elements to the lesson not easily achieved with traditional classroom methods. Today's webinar facilitators are Gina Tuzo and myself, Michelle D. Conti. Today's session objectives are to examine different ways to use Google Classroom in order to differentiate learning to meet student needs. Explore a variety of EdTech tools such as Kami, Hapara, and PearDeck that integrate well with Google Classroom while fostering collaboration in the co-teaching model, making co-teaching in a hybrid environment seamless. Let's first examine ways to prepare your lessons in Google Classroom. In this part of the webinar, we will focus on organizing your Google Classroom so that students will not have an issue finding and completing your assignments. We focus on using topics to organize assignments, content, and resources, the importance of using naming conventions for your assignments, and the benefits of numbering assignments to help students stay organized and focused. We will also show ways to use the stream for posting engaging and fun announcements for your students. Let's begin by discussing using topics to organize resources, to correspond with units, and to flow with your curriculum pacing, which will allow students to easily filter through your topics posted on the left-hand side of your Google Classroom. Using broad topics makes it simple to condense old assignments.
Addressing using topics to organize your resources is a great way to help you arrange how your Google Classroom flows. It's a great way for you all to have organization in the class. Students always know where to go to complete specific work, and it just makes the classroom nice and clean and not cluttered. So topics are a great way to help organize and a great way to direct your students to what they should be completing in the class. Another helpful little tip is for you to consider maybe numbering your assignments. Again, we want to make sure we are intentional about what we are doing with our students when using Google Classroom. You may already have your own special way for adding assignments. You may have a naming convention, or you may use a combination of numbers and naming conventions when posting your assignments. This is just a tip. This is not something we're saying that you have to do. If you don't have naming conventions or number your assignments, well, consider doing that. And again, when you go into our classroom, you're going to see a model of that in first place. So you'll get to see firsthand what it looks like to have your assignments numbered. Okay. The next thing we want to talk to you about is posting your recordings. Consider having a topic where you have resources, or maybe you have a lesson recordings topics for your students to be able to access your recorded lessons. The good thing is we're using Zoom for the bulk of our live lessons. So you can take those Zoom recordings and post them in your Google Classroom so that your students and or their parents can access those lessons to provide additional support to the students while they're at home. Okay? And the same if you're using Google Meet or if you're using Screencastify to record tutorials for your students, having a place within Google Classroom where you specifically have those videos posted, a specific topic, so that your parents, your students will be able to access those resources to provide additional support for those students. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Another thing we want to talk to you about is scheduling your posts. So scheduling the post allows you to plan ahead and choose a date and time in which you want to post that particular assignment. So maybe you and your co-teacher or co-teacher and primary teacher, you all have been planning, you have all these great activities that you want to add to the classroom for your students, and you don't want it to post right away. The great thing about Google Classroom is you can schedule your posts to go out in the future. So it's a great way for you to stay ahead of the game and post whatever you need to post for your students. And then when it's ready to go live, it's going to post for your kids. You don't have to go back and change anything unless you're choosing to. Or if you don't want to schedule that post right away, maybe you all are planning and you all have been brainstorming about some potential assignments that you want to post in classroom, then you can also save those assignments as drafts to go back and add to later and then post when you are ready. So just making you are aware of some features of Classroom that you may not use. Maybe you came up with an amazing assignment that you want to revisit with your students. Consider reusing a post. Google Classroom allows you to go back and pull up some of those awesome assignments that you've done that may have worked really well. You can use the repost feature. You can go back in, you can edit your directions, you can even change assignment documents. So you don't have to recreate the wheel all over again. So another thing we just want to bring to your attention is reorganizing your stream. So maybe you want a post to show up at the top, or maybe you want it to show up later at the bottom of your page. You can click and drag to move your assignments around within your classroom. So it makes reorganizing very simple. And then this is the part that we're going to dig deep with you all today. Apps that integrate with Google Classroom that really help foster collaboration between the primary teacher and the co-teacher. There are several apps that you see listed here. For today's training, we're going to focus on Kami, we're going to focus on Hapara, and we're going to focus on PearDeck, using these tools specifically to really help differentiate instruction for your students while also being able to collaborate with your teacher. Okay? So we're going to pause for some questions. This was just the overview. We're going to go into Google Classroom and we're going to see some things in action. This presentation is more than just a presentation, but it's also a resource tool for you. We're not going to spend the most of our time within this presentation. We want you all to see this in action. So after this question period, we're going to transition into Google Classroom. So if you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A and Gina and I will be sure to answer them for you. Are there any questions right now, Gina, that needs to be addressed verbally?
We just have somebody indicating that folks are trying to get in and are unable to join. So I'm just trying to send a quick email to see if I can help that person get in, but nothing that's come up so far about any of the content. And I know we're just getting to the fun and exciting stuff. So
Okay.
I'm excited. I'm trying to get the other person in right now.
Okay, great. Hopefully that all works out. All right. So guys, I'm going to now transition to my classroom. So bear with me. And let me move this guy out the way if he'll move. And of course, he doesn't want to move. Okay. Move. Oh, here we go. And it's still blocking what I need. Give me 1 second. Pause. Okay, boom. Okay, I am now in the classroom. Looks like my stream was updated. All right. If you haven't had an opportunity to join the classroom, the code has been shared in the chat. It was also emailed to you. So hopefully everyone who's present had an opportunity to join this class. So let's just quickly talk about the stream. For my Google Classroom advanced users, you guys are already familiar with the interface. When you open up your classroom, the first place you land is your stream. And stream is awesome because this is where your kids are going to see your announcements, the first thing you want to say to them or greet them. So you can greet them with what's coming due, upcoming due dates. I love to give my assignments due dates because I think it's important so that my students know when they have a deadline coming. So make sure you give those assignments due dates so your kids can see firsthand when they have something due. If mom and dad are checking that Google Classroom, when they click view all, they're going to see all the assignments that their child has coming due. Okay, I'm going to go back. Very good. Let's see that stuff. The cool thing about this too is teacher students, they can click the down arrow and visit other classes to see what they have coming due. All right, let me go on back. All right, the great thing about the stream is whatever you add to Classroom, your kids will see that the teacher has posted things within the classroom. But I like the stream because this is my place to greet you, to give you announcements, to let you know, hey, we have a warm up. Yes, I can post my Zoom links here. And the cool thing about your stream is when you click to add information, when you go to add, you can add different types of media. You can add something from your drive. If you have a link to a specific website, you can add that as well. You can upload a file from your hard drive. You can also greet them with the YouTube video. Maybe you have like a good morning song, that's a YouTube song. You can post that on the stream so that your kids can see that video first thing before they get into doing the work. So a cool way to use the stream, you want to make it as interactive and engaging and fun as you can for your students. So I try to practice what I preach. And so I went back to use a tool I haven't used in a very, very long time, but it's called Voki. Voki.com is a place where you can create interactive avatars. Now, I have to caution you, back in the day, Voki was 100% free, but they recognized it was a cool tool and they began charging you to use it. So now they have two sides. They have the free side and then they have the premium side. PG County is not paying for the premium side, but I was able to find some cool looking characters and creatures that I could add my own voice to, so that I can give my students messages and I can post my link to my Google Classroom so that my kids could see it. Um, I like this because I could, create my little message using voice, text to speech, or I could record my voice, which is what I did here to welcome you guys.
Use your Google Classroom stream to post engaging and fun announcements for your students.
So I like Vogie. They typically have like these weird looking characters that can come up. And for me, the weirder looking the character, the more I tend to like it. Like, oh, I can do something with this. But I wanted to record my message to welcome you all to the class with my own voice so you all could get that human touch. The great thing about this is they have, when you're creating your Vogie, you can even type out your script of what you want to say so that you're not speaking off the top of your head. You can record your message until you get it exactly the way you want. And then you can take that link and add it to your classroom, which is what I did here. And I see we had some comments. I like Folky. I have to caution you though, again, play around with it because they try to get you with those really nice, cool premium avatars first. So when you go to play in it, always click save to see if it's going to prompt you to use the premium, or if it allows you to move forward. You have the free version and you can, save it and then take that link and put it in your classroom. If this is something you want to do, just to make it a little more fun and interactive, you can play with the voices, and your students might get a kick out of seeing something like that, a little character welcoming them in the class. I'm not saying you need to do this for every single lesson, but from time to time, it's always something fun, different, and interactive for your kids. Again, keeping with trying to model what we would love for you all to see, I took the warm up that I really wanted you all to do. I wanted you guys to use the Flipgrid, and I know I gave you a choice, but I wanted you guys to kind of put yourselves in your students' place. And so, again, wanted to create something engaging to remind you to do the warm up. I took Gina and my what are these things called? I can't even think right now. Bitmoji. I took our Bitmojis and I put them in a Google slide. I found a classroom background and I just posted in the slide and add a text box to type my message. And I added my link for the Flipgrid warm up for you guys to come in and record yourselves. We want to make school fun. We want to make it engaging. Yes, you have work to do, but we want them to not be turned off because we're asking them to do a task. And just as in this assignment, I gave you all choice, we want to offer choices to our students. Whether we're the co-teacher or the primary teacher, we want to offer that choice to our kids so that they can do or choose the method to answer or complete that assignment and do their absolute best. I'll check momentarily to see how many people actually did the Flipgrid, but I know I gave you the option to also type your response in the response box. And again, modeling for you all what we will want you all to do for your own students. So we know, again, our stream is all about posting announcements, maybe your agenda for the week, upcoming assignments, as well as your Zoom links. So I'm going to move away from the stream and we're about to get into fun stuff and talk about apps that marry well with Google Classroom that foster collaboration and differentiation. So remember at the beginning of the session, we talked about using topics. We talked about using numbers to add or create our assignments. Now, I have topics, and keep your topics general. You may have a warm-up topic, classwork topic, independent practice topic. If you are a teacher and you teach multiple subjects, then you can have a topic for each of your subjects if you choose. Now, you may be wondering, well, where do I get these cute little emojis from, and I am using an emoji extension called Emoji Keyboard by Joy Pixels, and it allows me to add the little emojis to my classroom, my topic, and my assignments. I want my kids to be engaged when they come into my classroom. I want them to want to do my work. So I'm just going to peek in and see. I see 2 students turn their work in. 14 students are in this class, so it was assigned to 14 of you guys. And so you see in the assignment, I have my instructions, but I also have a differentiation / choice option where I let you all know if you didn't feel comfortable recording the Flipgrid video, then you could have also given me your answer in the response box. And so the classmates who are currently in the class, they chose the response box option, which is just as fine as recording. You may have students who may not type well or have a good grasp of spelling and grammar, so they may have elected to record their answer on the Flipgrid like we have here. We always want to offer our students choice so that they're giving us their absolute best. And also keep in mind what our students are able to do in terms of, their sentence structure, their spelling, their grammar, reading comprehension, and so forth. Okay? All right, I'm going to move away from the warm-up. We briefly spoke about Flipgrid. You could have gotten your hands a little bit dirty if you did the recording. Flipgrid is a great option for your students to give a response to a prompt or a question, and they can record their response. They can go back if you allow. You can allow them to actually respond to other classmates' videos as well. Of course, that takes practice. That's not something you would do right away because we want to make sure we're fostering good digital citizenship with these types of activities. So moving on, and we're going to talk about co-teaching with Cami. How many of you guys have heard of or you are currently using Cami? I can't really see, but hopefully we have some hands going up or some folks who are familiar with Cami. So Cami is an amazing tool that the district purchased this year, which allows you to annotate, as well as your students, to annotate on PDF documents. They can also annotate on any type of document, but we said PDF because that is the main doc in terms of what Cami allows us to annotate. So it allows us to take that static piece of PDF and make it more engaging for our students. Okay, so we have an activity that's called Co-Teaching with Cami Plot Diagram. And we wanted to introduce you all to Cami for those who may not be familiar, because Google Classroom allows you to create assignments using Cami. Now, last month, we actually had a training on how to use Google Classroom and Cami together, and those resources are located on our T3 website, which will be posted. If Gina hasn't already posted it, it'll be posted throughout our session. But I just want to quickly show you what this looks like. When I click on the link, I'm asked, do I want to open with Cami in 2 places? And so what happens is the Cami extension, which I have added to my computer, will open up the document, and Cami has a toolbar which allows us to interact with that PDF. So if this was an assignment that I gave my students, or maybe you posted this assignment and back up. As a teacher, I can take this document and mock it up for my students. I can give them specific instructions of what I want them to be able to do. So maybe I have a class of 25 students. In the class of 25, I may have 15 who can read the text on their own and they can come and do this without my help. And I may have a class, like 10 students within the class who need additional support. So for those kids who need additional support, I can take this document and mock it up just for them and share it just with those students. And when I say mock it up, I mean, I can come down here to my comment box and I can put some specific instructions in here for my students. So maybe I have students who don't do well with reading comprehension. I can give them a message, a comment on what I want them to do. I can give a voice comment or I can do a video comment as well as a text comment. I don't want to give a text comment because I know my student Michelle has a hard time with reading, but maybe I want to leave a voice comment for her. So I can click on voice comment and I can give specific instructions. Maybe I want to go through and give a voice comment on how I want Michelle to complete this activity. So when I click on the part of the document that I want to address, it immediately begins recording my voice like it's doing now. So I could click and say, Michelle, when you go to the climax box, I want you to give me the climax of the story. I don't expect you to type it. Instead, I want you to give me a video comment of the story. When I click stop, I can go back and play it over. So when I click on the part of the document that I want to address, it immediately begins recording my voice like it's doing now. So I could click and say, Michelle, when you go to the climax box, I want you. So if I'm like, you know what, I don't like what that sounds like. I don't want that. I'm gonna start over. I can go back and I can actually model what I want my student to do. Anytime you click on the text, comment, or video, as soon as you click on the section of the document that you want to record, it begins recording immediately. So I'm going to do a voice video comment instead. Michelle, for the climax, I would like for you to use the voice comment feature in Kami to record your climax to the story that we've been reading in class all summer and the day. So I can preview it. Michelle, for the climax, I would like for you to use the voice comment. All right, let's continue. Michelle, for the climax, I would like for you to use the voice comment feature in Kami to record your climax to the story that we've been reading in class all summer and the day. All right, I had to think of a story, but you all get the gist. I can put these voice comments throughout my document for my student, and then I can share it with them in Google Classroom. Now, my other students who don't need this accommodation, they're going to get a completely different document. They're going to get the original doc, and they'll know what to do. But for Michelle or the groups of Michelles in the class, they're going to get this document. Again, Michelle, for the rising action, I want you to list examples that create complications or suspense. Use the voice comment to answer this question. Michelle, for the rising action, I want you to list examples that create complications or suspense. So I could actually go back and change that and say, Michelle, instead of list, I want you to tell me examples that create complications. So I would take this doctored up assignment that I am going to share with my students. I'm going to save it now. And now I can go into my Google Classroom. And maybe I'm going to create a brand new assignment just so you all can see what this would look like with your students. So when I click the create button, you see, because I have downloaded or added the Kami extension to my computer, to my Chrome browser, I have an option that says Kami assignment. So I don't want to do a traditional Google Classroom assignment. I want to do a Kami assignment. And just like Google Classroom, it looks the same. We have a title that we have to give. I'm just going to call it a plot diagram. I can give instructions. I can't type. And I can give a due date. Let's say it's due tomorrow, as well as a time. Make it a little bit later. All right, good enough. I can choose to send this now, or I can wait to do it later. For the sake of this example, I'm going to do now. With Kami, you can't create a new topic. You have to already have your topics created. So I'm going to go with Co-Teaching with Kami. Anytime you create a Kami assignment, Google Classroom wants you to send Kami instructions to the students. And basically what that means is any assignment that the students are going to do that involves Kami, it walks them through how to add the Kami extension to their browser. That is something that you can do with your students ahead of time, okay? I want to add my assignment, so I'm going to go to my drive. And Kami and Google Drive is linked because Kami is a Google extension. I have a folder called Kami. And I also have another folder called Demo Docs. And I don't see the one I just did, but let's just pretend this is one. This is one I already mocked up. All right. So what Kami does when you add an assignment from your drive, it automatically makes a copy for each student, automatically. Now, if I don't want this to go to all of my students, I can click this down arrow and I can choose the group of students I want to receive this assignment. So maybe I just want the first 5 students because they're in my group to receive this assignment. Only those 5 are going to get this mocked up document. Another cool feature about Kami is you can turn things off. Kami's toolbar has a lot of features. So if you know you are only working on a specific skill with your student, or you only want them to use the comment tools, then you can turn off the dictionary. You can turn off text to speech. You can turn off the markup tools. Okay? You can also, if you're not using anything in terms of the shapes, you can turn those off. You can turn off inserting images. Okay, you can turn off the signature tool. So you can make it so for this assignment, your students only have access to the comment tools, since that's the way they're going to respond to the questions. Okay. When you're done, you click OK, and then you're ready to assign this work. And remember, it's only going to, right now, I have it set to go to 5 kids. But if you all want to see what it looks like, I'll send it to everybody. But I just want you to see that you can select students to send that work to.
And Michelle, I'm just going to jump in. If you're in the Google Classroom and you go ahead and install Kami, and then you pull up this assignment, you can use Kami to start entering your responses, and you'll see Michelle and I, as teachers, can pop into your document live while you're working. I don't have to wait for the student to turn it in. I don't need them to share it with me separately. You can be in your document working, and I can provide support real time. So for example, I just inserted a quick YouTube video on the difference between protagonist and antagonist for a student who maybe was having trouble with that terminology, or that I know might need that extra support. You can do that real time with Kami, and I just find that so powerful. So if you have not yet installed Kami and started playing around with that assignment, just know that that's something you can do real time. I can go in, Michelle can go in, we can see each other's comments, and all in real time, which is just so powerful when students are struggling or they need help. You can do that seamlessly using this fabulous tool.
Absolutely. So I just clicked on open. I don't want this one. I don't want that. I want to be able to see my kids. Let me go back. Here we go. So this is my mocked up document. I was trying to see if anybody was in it, but I don't see anybody right now. So I'm going to keep moving. In terms of the instructions, again, Kami, remember we checked those Kami and Google Classroom for student instructions. So this just walks the students through how to add the Chrome extension to their Chrome browser. And it's very, very simple, okay? So just wanted to show you that. All right. Okay. Let's go on back. Trying to think that I missed anything. Okay. All right. Any questions about Kami, collaborating with Kami, using Kami, mocking up a document in Kami for your students to give them that extra support, or adding a Kami assignment? I will tell you this. Let me see. I don't have one done. But when your students begin turning in their assignments for Kami, in order to see their annotations, make sure you click grade with Kami. And I'm just trying to, I don't have one here to show you. Let's go here.
Yeah, if someone were to turn in the assignment, we then would be able to grade it with Kami. So when you submit the work, or you create the Kami assignment, you can also grade with Kami, which means you can do all of these great things that Michelle's trying to pull up the example and show you with.
All right, so you see, I just clicked on a random student in the class so you all can see. And right now, you will see two bubbles at the bottom of the page that has our initials. MC is me, JP is my student. So if there were other people, if Gina joined in, you would also see a bubble with her initials. But I want to make sure when you are grading with Kami, or you want to view the students' annotations, make sure grade with Kami is checked. It is not the default. So you're going to have to make sure you check it, and you only have to check it one time. And then from that point on, you'll be able to see any annotations that your students make to the document. And you'll be able to see the student working in real time. So that part is really, really cool about Kami. Just think about working with your primary teacher, and if this wasn't a real assignment that the teacher was giving the students and you wanted to differentiate based on the IEP goals of your student, then you could come and add whatever you need to that's going to help your student complete that task based on what's in their IEP. I just highlighted the voice comment and the video comment for our students who may struggle with writing or our students who may struggle with their reading comprehension. So just trying to show you all that you can not only have your students annotate, but you can annotate a document that you share with your students, giving them specific instructions on how to complete the work, which may look very different from the student who's sitting next to them who does not need that accommodation. All right, coming back, I'm going to close that part. And we're going to talk to you now about co-teaching with Hapara. Gina, I'm going to stop sharing so you can share.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I'm waiting for it to recognize that I'd like to present. All right, so that way I can share my screen and get going with the next exciting piece of this. I have to tell you, I am a recent convert on the Kami.
Okay.
I absolutely love Kami. I recently converted. I've done the level 1 and the level 2 certification now because I just find it to be such a powerful tool, especially with thinking about this idea of co-teaching because it's just so seamless. I was just in, Nicole turned her assignment in and I can give her the private feedback like I would with any other Google assignment. But Kami has these really cute stickers. If you have not seen them, under the add media button, go to the little face and there's all these adorable little stickers that you can actually put on the student work when they're done. Hey, great to have who doesn't love a virtual sticker? I don't know. So now we're going to talk about co-teaching with Hapara. So Kami is a powerful tool for that collaboration and being able to have the same access and ability to support students as the primary teacher does. So we want to talk about Hapara and some of the advantages you have with that. Now, if you are not signed into your Google Chrome browser, it would be helpful if you could sign into your Google Chrome browser, but it's not mandatory. I will go ahead and show you anyway. We're going to take a look at 3 things. We're going to take a look at highlights and then focus and filter sessions, okay? So when you log into Hapara, it will sync with classrooms in 2 different ways. So from the main screen, when you first log in, you're going to see all your different classrooms here. And if you need to add a class, you can. So as long as you are added as a teacher in a Google Classroom, you can log into Hapara and add that class. You just come in, you pick the school, or in my case, it would be central office, and it's going to bring up all your Google Classrooms and it's going to say, okay, which one do you want to add? And then you just check the box and throw it in. And now that class is here, part of Hapara. Sometimes you get new students. We get this question a lot, so I am going to just show it to you quickly. Oh, I've got some new students. They're not showing up in Hapara yet. On this page, if you click the pencil, you can open the class info, okay? And when you open that, you'll have the option in the top right-hand corner to sync the class. Now, this class is the Google Classroom that you're in, but I don't have any students there, which tells me one of 2 things. Either you're not signed into the Google Chrome browser itself, you're using Chrome, but not signed into it, or there's some sort of conflict because it's recognizing you as a teacher. And I'm not sure which the case is here. But nonetheless, we are going to keep moving. So I am going to switch to a different classroom just briefly to show you some of the things that we can do. So under the highlights tab is where we're really going to see a lot of our information. And Hapara can do a lot of different things. And many times we get folks that are kind of focused on um, monitoring and compliance. And so we want to shift that a little bit more to look at instructionally. So here is where I can see the browser tabs that the student is on these cards. You see most of the students are offline right now, and makes sense. But when they're online and they're logged in to the Chrome browser, it will show me the things that they currently have open. If I needed to close something, I could. I would just click on the X to be able to close it, and it would ask me, why do you want to close this? I might provide a message to the student, or determine it's inappropriate or something of that nature. But I also have some additional items here. If I click the three dots for any student, there's a number of things I can do. I can send them a message and say, hey, Jenna, looks like you're a little bit off task right now. Can you please close this tab and refocus and come back and join us? I can send links. If I say, oh, are you having trouble finding the resource? Here it is, and push the link out directly to that student or students that need it, okay? So there are several tabs here under the highlights tabs. The browser tabs is going to show you, as I mentioned, the most recent browser tabs that students have been looking at. You can select whether you want that to be 1, 3, 5, 15, 25. Obviously, the more that you list, the more cluttered it's going to get and a little harder to look at. So generally 5 is usually enough. You are going to have the activity viewer, which is for overall what's happening right now, what are kids on, what are they accessing, and you can get more details on that too. Now, the thing that says never active here, that's not accurate, obviously. Our students, the majority of your students, if not every single one, has been on Clever. So the never active isn't accurate, but the currently active and previously active will be. So that will give you an idea what's going on right now. If you see kids that are off task or aren't sure where to get started, they've only got the Zoom open and they don't have anything else open, you can get in touch with those kids. You can send them a message right here through Hapara. Under the current screen tabs, I can see exactly what you're looking at, what you're doing, in pretty close to real time. All right. So all of that is great for kind of monitoring and helping support students that might be off task, or they can't find the link or the resource. It's great to be able to come in here and just go ahead and send them that information quickly and easily. I can also build groups in here so that if I'm working with, I support 2 groups, the other teacher supports 2 groups, I can build my 2 groups in here and then do things with those groups. And so one of the great things that I absolutely love that we can do with the groups or the whole class is up here in the right-hand corner. It's called guide browsing. Now, when you begin to use this, it's going to give you 2 options. You can do a focus session or you can do a filter session. And the idea behind these are this. The first one, focus session, says, I would like for you to access these and only these things right now. So for the next 15 minutes, you're going to do independent work. And I'm going to say you can only access the Google Classroom and this YouTube video, whatever it is I need you to access. I put those in, and it's not going to allow the students to go to any other websites except exactly what you've listed. So keep that in mind and be careful with that, that you want to make sure you're giving them access to all the things they really need access to. It would be inconvenient to grant access, let's say, to the video you want them to watch and not the worksheet that you need them to complete or the task. So the other option is the filter session. which for a period of time will block certain sites. And again, it is site specific. It's very specific. So if you see, I see that Michelle every 5 minutes is going to YouTube, watching the latest, greatest music video. I really need her to shut it off and pay attention. I've already closed her browser window. It didn't make a difference. She's still checking out YouTube. I can go in and start a filter session for Michelle and say, hey, block all of YouTube right now because I need Michelle to focus on her work. And it will do that. So to do these, it's very easy. You just make your choice and then put in the information. So you can put up to 10 links for the focus session to say, here are the items I want them to look at. Do you want them to have access to the whole site or even down to specific pages? So I might pull up the T3 website and say, we're only going to look at the teacher page. We're not going to look at any other pages. I can do that here inside of a Kami focus session. I can set the duration of time. Now, we do suggest that you really consider, you be mindful with this, because especially when you're looking at co-teaching and you're looking at students that have multiple teachers, we wouldn't want a student to get blocked out of things when they really need to be accessing something for another teacher. So try to keep your time limits reasonable with the sessions. And also keep in mind, our span of attention. It's going to become a routine for kids to know, okay, the teacher really wants me to focus on this. If I just focus and do my work, I'm good. After the 15 minutes, it will go away. The 15 is the default. You can do more or less. Then there's, what do you want to happen at the end of the session? Do you want to keep all the tabs open, or do you want to restore what they had open before? Because when you start the session, anything else that they've got open, it's going to close that other stuff so that their attention is brought to this. So do you want to restore those things they had open before or not? You have those options here. And then it's going to say, who do I want the session to be for? I can choose the whole class. I can select individual students, or I can select from my groups that I have built. So it really does allow you to tailor this and really drill down to the particular students you're trying to work with. So you have the option at the very end. Do you want to schedule it so I can set this up today for tomorrow, for my class tomorrow? Or I can turn it on right now. So the same is true for the filter session. It is a very, very similar process. The only difference is here with the filter session where it's blocking, you can only block 5 websites at a time. And you see it's not the page, it's the whole site that gets blocked. So you can only block 5 at a time. And you could do this by student or for the whole class, again, by groups. All of those other, some of those other features are here. Very simple and straightforward to go in and filter it. So I really love these two. I think this is a very powerful tool for being able to support the co-teaching models, because it really allows us to hone in and work with students more closely that maybe need, those supports in place. Okay. So having said that, I will share the slides with you here, just showing you the things that we just took a look at. You'll see here on this slide, when you go to close a particular tab for a student, it asks, why are we closing it? So we see that prompt there. And then just reviewing the information with you on how do I begin a focus session and how do I use a filter session. Okay, so I'm just going to pause, take a moment here, check in, see how we're doing, how you're feeling. Hopefully, if you're not familiar with Hapara, this may have given you a reason to go in and give it a shot, try it. If you are familiar with Hapara, awesome. Hopefully you're already using it and you know these things are available to you. All right. So if you have any questions, please feel free, put them in the Q&A. we'll give you just a moment for anyone that would like to ask any questions before we move into our next section.
No questions have been posted.
All right. So let's keep going with all of these great ideas and content to support co-teaching. The next item we're going to take a look at is another really diverse tool called PearDeck. And this is relatively new. PearDeck, within the last few months, recently added in co-teacher capability. And I love this. To me, this is sort of a co-teacher's dream in a lot of ways, because with a lot of the presentations that we do in our department and the trainings that we provide, you know, there's a number of us that are delivering the training, and it can be a bit clumsy, you know, passing the ball back and forth, who's presenting what, who's doing what. So this integration between PearDeck and Google with co-teachers really knocks a lot of that concern out. I don't have to worry about it anymore because we can all be in the same thing at the same time with teacher level access. So it's really very helpful. So let's take a look at what does this mean and what does it look like. If you're not using PearDeck yet, PearDeck is an add-on in Google Slides and Google Chrome. So you'll want to get the different elements added on and begin accessing your account before you can begin using it in this co-teaching capacity. You can find full information on our webinar recordings page. We have a PearDeck page under Teacher Tools. When you go to the teacher page of our website, we'll be sure to swing by later and show it to you. You can get all the information you need for getting started with PearDeck there. So once you are started with PearDeck, you want to log into your PearDeck account from the PearDeck website and click on your account. In there, you're going to go to your settings and you want to make sure that Google Classroom is turned on. This is the same place that you would make sure that the Gmail authentication is turned on, because that's going to allow you to get your students connected so that they receive the information and you receive their work seamlessly. So those settings are very important if you have not yet accessed those. And then the next step is to have your presentation, get it ready, build it, whatever you need for your lesson. And you would then add your co-teachers. And if we are in instructor paced mode, all of the teachers that have been added will have equal access. So I will have the teacher toolbar, Michelle will have the teacher toolbar. I will be able to advance the slides. Michelle will be able to advance the slides, which is good to know, because if you're both in there at the same time, you don't want to accidentally advance the slides on your partner, okay? In student-paced mode, that's a little bit different. You both still have the full teacher access. It's just that students are in control of going through, advancing the slides forward and backward, okay? So to invite the co-teachers, there's a couple of options. From your teacher dashboard, you can get an invitation link. So on the teacher dashboard, which is generally the black bar at the bottom when you're using PearDeck, you'll see an option to invite the co-teacher there. When you're in the session, in the top right-hand corner, you'll see a class roster button, and that button will show you here your students and your teachers with the option to invite the co-teacher there. So it's really easy to go ahead and invite the co-teachers. You'll get a link that you can share and send to them and say, hey, just letting you know, I'd like you to join me for this presentation, or here's the presentation for tomorrow's lesson for you to join as co-teacher. And then you'll notice when you're in the session, you can see the name and the avatar of the teacher when they are joined into your session, okay? So we are going to take a look at this. I'm going to hop over to the Google Classroom where we do have a PearDeck set assignment in the Google Classroom for you. And so you will need to sign in to see that. I'm going to log into PearDeck here and pull that session up so that you can see the teacher dashboard. So here under sessions, this is the session for right now. I'm going to open my teacher dashboard, which is this button here. And here at the top, you can see I've got me as the host, and I can see Michelle is the co-teacher. In the bottom left-hand corner are the 3 dots where I would be able to invite the co-teacher and also change the various settings. Michelle has this same thing when she logs into PearDeck now and opens on her screen. She has all of the same controls. So if Michelle wants to, she can advance us to the next slide while I'm talking and giving my instruction. Or if I've covered my section and it's Michelle's turn to take over in the lesson now, we can do that seamlessly. She already has control and all of the access that she needs. It also means that as students provide responses, we see here we only have 1 person in. Thank you, Matthew, right now. As the rest of you get joined, Michelle and I both are able to leave feedback for these individuals. So I can go in and leave feedback, and Michelle can come right behind me and add feedback for that person as well. So now real time, we're both able to support the students live in the session without any interruption and seamlessly. Okay, so I really like this. I really like being able to have it be seamless as you're working together and presenting together. At any point, if we needed to, we could add a brand new prompt. You'll notice down here in the bottom right-hand corner, we can throw a new question in at any point. So if Michelle's noticing, if I'm just sort of in my own world over here and I'm busy trying to remember all the stuff I'm supposed to present, and Michelle recognizes, oh, wait, I see a number of students are struggling, she can easily jump in to address that, including with locking the screens and saying, hey, you know what, let's pause just a second. I want to clarify something, or adding in that new prompt. So the feedback, now you're seeing me leaving the comments, but the students are not going to see each other's comments if you're not sharing the teacher dashboard with them. Generally, you would share, you would look at the projector view that you would be sharing with students. It's a great question, Nicole. You generally would not share the teacher dashboard view with students, so it would be private, with the exception that, of course, Michelle can see it. All of the teachers would be able to see the feedback that is there, okay? So Matthew would see both of these responses on his screen. All right. All right. Any other questions about PearDeck and co-teaching? Now, I will point out too that when Michelle logs into her PearDeck under her sessions, she will also be able to see the data from this session. So when the session is over and it's ended, Michelle can log in and give the takeaways, publish the takeaways to give back to the students. Michelle can also go in and leave comments, grade it, leave feedback, all those things. So this then becomes available equitably to both or all teachers that are on the presenter, included in the PearDeck as a co-teacher. So the more folks that you have supporting students, they can all get this level of access with this tool. Great question, Virginia. I am not aware currently if there is a limit on that. it's definitely something we can try to find out. And Michelle, please jump in if you know. Do you know if there's a limit on co-teachers for the PearDeck session?
Not that I'm aware of, but I can do a quick search to see.
Thank you. Another good question. All right. All right, so let's keep moving. Let's talk about sharing in Google Classroom. There are some different ways that you can share things inside of Google Classroom. We are beginning to see more and more integrations with Google Classroom, supporting tools that work with Google Classroom. We see that Kami has been added where you can create a Kami assignment right in Google Classroom. We see in PearDeck that also syncs with Google Classroom to be able to have your students log in using their G Suite account to access their content and also to publish the takeaways. And it also allows us to, I don't know if I showed it. Let me go to a new one. But you can also, trying to find under my sessions. I think because it's already in progress, I can't do it. But you can, when you're getting ready to share the PearDeck lesson with students, there's actually the option to do that with Google Classroom. So here you see on the screen now, I have the option invite class, and it's going to connect directly to Google Classroom, to my classes, so that I can put things right from PearDeck. You see it brought up all my classes and ask me which one do you want to put it in. I just say, oh, send it to this one. And when I do that, it's going to send you an email saying, hey, your teacher said come join this, which you can obviously ignore because you're already joined. But I just wanted to make sure that I showed that to you. So we may continue to see more things that integrate. There are a number of tools that do so. This can help us with differentiating assignments, and we also can assign to multiple classes. So this is sort of back to that basic functionality, thinking about collaborating with Google Classroom. We want to consider the ways that we're sharing things with students. So if you're working with a small group of students, you can choose to share one file among your group of students, because we know that in G Suite, if it's a Google-based document or file, that we would be able to track the changes and see what everyone's doing. So something like that might be a good option for you, versus making things assign a copy to every student, where then you have to go in and look at all these different copies of the assignment. So we definitely want to encourage you to think about opportunities where that might work, where you make maybe 3 versions instead of every kid getting their own, and you do put kids in groups. You can do that in Google Classroom. Co-teachers in Google Classroom have equitable access to everything. So they can create new assignments to share with groups of students or specific students. Everyone that is listed as a teacher can see the drafts as well as things that are posted in Google Classroom. I will say also, they can archive the class, so please make sure that your co-teachers don't accidentally archive the class because they're not supporting that student anymore. They don't need to be in there. They click archive to get rid of it on their screen. It archives for everyone. So please remind them that we don't want them doing that. But aside from that, they have, all co-teachers in classroom have full access. So anything that the primary educator can do, you can do as a co-teacher as well. You also have the option to create assignments for multiple classes at one time. So let's say that you support 3 different math classes and you need to provide an assignment for groups of kids in each of those math classes, you can create the assignment one time, post it to all 3 classes, and then go to each class and assign it specifically to the groups of kids. So it kind of saves you an additional step. You do have the option to do that as well. All right, I see a question coming in. Can you add PearDeck and Nearpod to your Google extensions? So PearDeck is an add-on in Google Slides. So yes, you would open up Google Slides and add the add-on there. There is a PearDeck extension. It's called the PearDeck Power Up. And that is a separate thing that allows some additional features, additional functionality with PearDeck. You don't have to use it, but it does add some additional functionality. As far as Nearpod, I believe that Nearpod is a standalone application. So at this time, I'm not aware of any add-ons or extensions for those. Michelle, do you know if Nearpod has any add-ons or extensions?
So Nearpod is considered an extension, whereas you just explained PearDeck is an add-on. And so it's a part of Google Slides. But with Nearpod, the way that I've read it, you can actually create assignments within Classroom, similar to how we create assignments using Kami. I don't have Nearpod added to my Chrome browser. I don't use it. So I am not very well versed on it and its integration with Classroom, but just doing some quick research, it does say that you can create Google Classroom assignments with using Nearpod, just like we did with Kami.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so I just did a quick search in the Chrome Web Store. It does look like there's the extension that Michelle is talking about. I'm, again, just like Michelle, I'm not personally familiar with it, but chances are you could install and use that as well. So,
Hey, Gina, can you just quickly show them in slides what we mean by an add-on?
sure.
Thanks.
So this is our presentation. You see I have the little PearDeck thing there because I already have PearDeck installed, but next to that is add-ons. So once you have a presentation open, it can be a blank one, it can be anything. It doesn't have to be special. You just open up slides, click on add-ons, and oh, look, I do have an add-on for Nearpod. Look at that. I don't even use it, so surprise. And this is where you will find them. So when I want to use PearDeck, I can come in here and click or Nearpod to use those in there. If you don't have them yet, which if you haven't added them, you wouldn't, you would click the button here underneath that says Get Add-ons. And this is where you could search for those. Both Nearpod and PearDeck are right there. So you would be able to install those and then be able to use them. Okay. I definitely need to set aside some time and spend some more time with Nearpod. All right, so before leaving you tonight, we have about 6 more minutes. We do want to make sure that we show you our website in case you need anything else. You see our contact information here, Michelle and myself. Let's go ahead and take a look at our T3 website. Every school does have an assigned T3 trainer to support you in your technology use and effectiveness. If you're not sure who that person is for your school, you can come here to meet the team. And when you scroll down, you're going to find our fabulous photos, as well as our names and our contact information. And then the caret next to each person's name, if you click that, it's going to open a drop down that will show you the schools that that person supports. So if you need to find out, oh, hey, I'm at such and such a school, I can come take a look at the list and say, oh, so this is my person. We see here Michelle supports cluster 9 schools. So If you are among cluster 9, Michelle would be your contact. And you do not need any special reason, permission, or excuse to reach out to us. You can email us anytime. If you are trying to figure something out with Nearpod and you're stuck, go ahead and send us an email. If you've got some crazy new idea you want to try with, you know, making videos with students and you need someone to help you think through what tools do we have access to that might help you be able to create this thing, reach out to us. We are here to support you and the work that you do every single day. So please, please do not hesitate. We're also going to show you up top the teacher tab, the tabs across the top. Underneath the digital tools, as I mentioned before, we do have a page for each of these. If you need to get started with Nearpod, PearDeck, you can come here, click on PearDeck, and this is where you will find a plethora of resources on how to get started, including our webinar, our introduction to PearDeck, and PearDeck in Google Classroom. You see, we have lots and lots of videos where we have focused on PearDeck, PearDeck and Edpuzzle, PearDeck in Classroom. Um, we have done tons of things. So you can come here and find out more to get started. For any of our tools, you can do that. And then the last thing I'll point out is our webinar recordings tab all the way to the right. Here is where you can find webinar recordings for lots of sessions that we have presented since going virtual a year ago. Whew, just a few days, it will be a full year, hard to believe. But here you can access these presentations covering all sorts of things, everything from specific tools, things geared to particular grade levels, and even general strategies and pedagogy. We've got it all. So these are entirely at your leisure whenever you would like to explore them. All right. And again, if you have any questions about anything you come across there, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can also send an email to our general email address, which is t3@pgcps.org, and your email will be directed to the appropriate person to provide the support you're looking for. Having said all that, I want to thank Michelle so much for presenting this with me tonight, being part of this fabulous technology training team. And if there is anything else we can do, we'll hang on just a couple of minutes to make sure you don't have any more questions, but please feel free to let us know if you have any questions in the Q&A. We wish you a good evening. Please stay safe. And thank you, thank you, thank you for the amazing work you have done all year and continue to do for our students and families. You're amazing. Thank you.
Yes, you guys are. And really quickly before you go, the presentation is a part of the resources within our Google Classroom. So you already have access to it. Thank you so much for coming.
Okay, I see a question coming from Nicole. Specimen dissection for AP students. What type of camera setup do you suggest I use? Okay, so Nicole, that's a great question. We know that some of the document cameras we're seeing some issues with, so that may not be the best tool. You can actually use, if you can use your cell phone technically as a webcam or a document camera. You just plug it in with the charging cord into your laptop, and then your video recording tool should pick it up to recognize it as a camera, so that if you're using Screencastify or you're going to use Zoom, you can use that for it. You might need to sort of rig a little setup as far as being able to have it positioned so that it picks up everything you want it to pick up. But that's certainly an option to consider. That might work for you. Awesome. I hope that works. If not, reach out to your T3 person. I know that I think A&P is a high school course. I know our T3 members that support high school absolutely have so much expertise when it comes to video stuff. I think one of them actually taught, media courses, video courses and media courses. So she would definitely be able to give you some more detailed support on that.
And the other trainer has a science background and she loves all things science.
Yes.
So just keep that in mind as well.
Wonderful. At this time, we are going to end the session. Thank you so much for joining us.